Episode 33.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Dang, we're so tan, man.
Yeah, I know. We should use this tanning effect more often. No, actually, I was just looking at myself in the mirror yesterday and told my wife, you know what, honey? I think the summer's working. I think I'm actually getting tan because I just thought I'd be white all summer.
Yeah.
So
You're finally let out of the office.
Yep, I've finally been let out of the cage.
Brandon Unchained.
So yeah, mostly no, there's still chains. Mostly it's just me making that commitment to at the end of the day at like 6 p.m. go and jump in the lake.
When it's still like 90 degrees.
When it's still like 90 degrees and everybody else is jumping in the lake in the evening. You know, I'm tempted to be like, I just want to go lie on the couch, eat dinner, watch a movie. But it's like, it's so hot. I can't even be inside right now. So yeah, we're making an effort to just still go outside.
The weather kind of forces you to be an active participant in life.
Yeah. Mostly just the high AC bills.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay that.
Being poor is what really motivates you.
Yes. We need to just still enjoy our lives without being stuck inside in the sweltering heat.
That's fair. Yeah. And if you're going to lay down on a couch, it's not much harder to lay down on a paddleboard.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's like, at least if I sweat, I can just wipe it off in the lake water instead of like letting it soak into my carpet or my couch.
There's like a big Brandon-shaped stain on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. So anyway, that's not what inspires me.
It checks out. Yeah. I'm down here freezing most of the time.
Yeah, that's right, 'cause you're down. Yeah, well, that's great.
All the AC.
I mean, in the summer, that's great, but in
the
winter, I'm sure it's not.
It's fine in the winter, but or I haven't been here in the winter really. It was a little cold when I got here, but yeah. Most of the time, your parents are blasting AC, so I'm just like, so I have to go outside to like warm up occasionally.
Thaw out.
Thaw out. Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Brandon's parents.
Yeah.
Shout out to
those upstairs,
to the sky,
to the people up above.
Yeah. So what inspires you, Brandon?
What inspires me? Gosh. Okay, am I going first?
Yeah. Let's keep it on a roll.
Okay. All right.
I'm still mulling around a few ideas.
That's fine. I'll be the initiator. Okay, yeah. So, I can't remember. I think it was before we went on our break. So maybe like a month and a half ago or a few episodes ago now. I was talking about the American Revolution. And I was talking about the differences between the American Revolution and the French Revolution and just revolutions in general and stuff.
Sure.
And I don't think I'm done with that topic yet. I think I actually still need to come back, not to the whole thing, but just to one aspect of it. And it's George Washington. I've been reading a little bit of like a short biography of him recently, and I think he's always been like a cool guy in my mind because he was like this cool general who he like won a war and a thing, and he was like the first president, and he's like on our money, and so I was like, that guy's a guy. There's a state named after him and whatever. But I don't think I realized actually how influential he was in starting our country, and what an incredible like humility and sacrifice he was willing to make by essentially not becoming king of America.
Yeah.
And when you just are a historian and you're like, I'm going to read through all the warmonger, generals of armies who like became king over this area, or let's give all the power of our army into this one dude's hand and then like have him go fight off the bad guys. Typically, that's like a Julius Caesar situation where he comes back and he's like, well, I have the army, so I'm king now.
Kind of self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, if we give this dude all the power, he's not going to give it up,
Yeah.
And you see that like over and over again in history. It just doesn't really work out where that person's like, yeah, it's cool. I'll lay down my like giant army. Like, I'm cool with that. But when you look at George Washington, he literally had this like ragtag army that totally overcame the most powerful army in the whole world, the British Empire. And it's like mind-blowing, doesn't make sense. And so literally the whole like sort of Western European world is looking at this character right now and going, whoa, that's apparently the most powerful general on like the known world right now because he just defeated this army. And like that guy is super, like everybody's got respect for him. He's got like mad skills going on here.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful guy. And there were so many people in the whole nation who were like, we want, King Washington. And people were just ready to set him up as monarch.
Yeah.
And you even had a almost, I don't even know how to say it, almost like a mutiny in the army, where the army literally got together, and there was some person who made these like fictitious letters that were basically saying we need to, as the army, basically go on strike and be like, we want more money as an army, and what we're going to do is set up George Washington as our new king because he was such an awesome general. And so the army literally was like, we're not going to fight anything and do any, and we're basically just going to pull back and like let the British Empire take over America and like screw those people.
we have all the cards right now.
Like, we've got all the cards. We want you to pay us a lot more money because we just saved everybody's butts, and we want George Washington to be our king. And George Washington literally just showed up to them and was like, hey guys, I don't know who wrote these weird little letters and tried to like make this a whole thing and got this whole mob of you guys together and is telling you to stop, like don't resist the British if they come back or whatever. But like, I don't want to be king. I'm not going to do that. And I get that you guys want money, but like we're literally borrowing money from the French and other European countries. Like we just don't have the money.
Some things never change.
You can either just like screw the country over that you just fought and died for, and then guess what? You're not going to have anything. And it's like, why'd you even fight for this in the first place?
Yeah.
Or you can, just sort of deal with it, wait, hopefully you'll get your money back, and just know that you are enjoying like freedom with the new country you built. And like, you'll always have the honor of this country. People will respect you. And like, just get over the fact that I'm not going to be your king. Like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then they were kind of like, okay, well, can we at least make you like our president for like a little time?
Our one bargaining chip just backed out.
It's like the whole thing just like fell apart,
Mm-hmm.
And because everybody had mad respect for him, they just were like, well, if that's what he says, like that's what we're going to do,
Yeah.
And there came a point, because he was sort of viewed as this invincible character at this point. Like he had horses shot out from under him, bullets in his jackets, and he'd like never been touched. So it's kind of this like, he's like the demigod of America kind of thing,
Interesting.
But there came a point when he said, hey, I want to read you guys this letter. He's speaking to the army still. He said, I want to read you guys this letter. And he pulled out these glasses, and he wasn't a very good reader. And he said, I apologize, I'm not going to read very well to you. It's being in this war with you over these years has made an old man out of me. And it was when he said that people in the army started crying and realizing how this guy had literally sacrificed so much for his country, and then they were almost ashamed of themselves that they weren't willing to sacrifice for their country too. It was like this guy became old in front of our eyes as our general, and he like has reading problems, and he has to have glasses, and he's not that like invincible guy because the war has like waned him down with stress so much. And they were really heartbroken to see him that way. And it really like melted their hearts for him and been like, wow, this is a genuine guy that we're going to just follow and respect,
Yeah. So he lost some of the mythical status.
Yeah. Right. Put him into that status. And so then he basically said like, okay, I'll just be a president. I'm not going to be king forever. I'm not going to like have ultimate authority. Like I want checks and balances on what I do. I'm only going to say I have powers over certain things. And he basically established what it meant to be a president. Like we would have never had the idea of president unless he was the person who was like, this is how I want it to be. And they were like, okay, we'll just take what we can get. Like as long as you're in charge.
Yeah, you need someone to rally behind and like get everybody on board.
And then he basically said like, I only want to be president for like 4 years. And then at the end of 4 years, they were like, please do it just for like another 4 years. And he was like, fine, okay, I'll do it for another 4 years. And then at the end of 4 years, they literally were like, you can just keep doing it like as long as you want. And he was like, no, that's it. I'm done. And that set the precedent for 2 4-year terms. And that's the max time. Otherwise, we would have just been like, I guess you just keep going. I don't know.
Wasn't there one president that did 3?
That was FDR during World War II. Yeah, there was an exception made so that he could keep going for World War II.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is funny, like, especially during that revolutionary time where it's like how much of, there's the idea it just all went smoothly or, oh yeah, of course, like everyone had it all figured out and they just did it that way because that was the way they drafted it up and it was like good.
Yeah.
But it's like you're saying, there's like so many little twists and turns with like the fake flyers, or even disagreeing parties. Like half the people still thought that you should go back to Britain, or like all this different like weird shenanigans going on, and like, okay, we need to set up another monarchy, or it's like we want this guy to be king.
Yeah.
It's like there's like an idea presented that everyone was like unified, like everyone's like, yep, let's kick the British out and start America.
Yeah.
But it was like only like a fraction of the people actually wanted like a new like country and America and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, like the United States of America today is like the traitors.
Yeah.
Like, because there were a lot of people who were like, you're being disloyal to England. Like, why would you do that? And they were the loyal people, and everybody who stayed here and fought was like the rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if ISIS takes over your country and then you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Those are the bad guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. Yeah. So is George Washington, was he kind of like a reluctant, like was his involvement kind of reluctant at first, or did he just like jump in all gusto?
he jumped in. So well, if you go way back, because he knew from an early age that he didn't really have an inheritance. He didn't really have like money in his family. And so he was like, if I want to ever become a wealthy person of status, the only way to do that is own land. If you have an estate, you're like a person of status. You can like vote and choose what you do with your life, and you own stuff and you have money, and like otherwise you're kind of like the lower class.
Yeah.
So he's like, I need to get
land.
Not
much has changed.
Not much has changed. Yeah. Well, so he started out by being a land surveyor, because that way he could basically see what land the government was dividing up to sell to people.
Yeah.
And he basically measured out those lands. So he'd always know what was the best land, and he could get kind of first pick on, I want to buy that thing. So he was a land surveyor, and it allowed him to buy a lot of land at good prices. So he bought really good land. Then I can't remember, I think he had like a brother who passed away who had some money, and he was able to get that money from him and get his estate, which I think his estate ended up being Mount Vernon in Virginia, I want to say. And that's where he then had his like main estate that he had. But I think he had like thousands of acres of land at the end of his life. I think he had a lot.
Yeah.
But after he did a little bit of that, and I think he was in like his mid-20s, I want to say, or maybe even his early 20s, he then joined the army and was able to get to like being a major. And I think he got to that because he had kind of this land status. So he got to like jump in a little bit higher than other people.
Yeah.
And then he fought in the French and Indian War. He was really ambitious with that. He might have even lied and kind of falsified some information at a certain point, tried to get ahead a little bit. So he wasn't like a super great guy.
Nobody is.
Nobody is, And then and then from that, because he had war experience when it came to the Revolutionary War, he was like a really ideal pick because he had already fought in a war. And there wasn't a ton of people with war experience at that point. So
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, probably especially fighting in America.
Yeah.
And so is that where he got his like legendary tactics from, like fighting Indians and stuff?
I think he got some tactics from that. And I don't know. I think a lot of his tactics was honestly just like desperation, because he basically was torn between like, how do I, with this tiny army, fight a superior army? I have to do something radical,
Yeah.
I've got to like surprise attack at night, going across a, wintry lake here, or, I've got to get my men to fight when they haven't been paid or fed for a long time. So I've got to get a victory so that they'll be motivated to fight. It's like, how do you do these things, right?
Was he? I mean, he must have been surrounded by good people too. Like, did he have anyone that was like the tactics master or anything like that?
Actually, I don't know that for sure. I know that he definitely had to deal with a lot of grumblers and complainers a lot.
Sounds like Moses.
Yeah, honestly, that's a good analogy. I think it was kind of a Moses situation. I don't know how many good people he had around him, but I know he had a lot of people in the army who were like, we're sick of this. We want to go back to our farm. Who cares if it's the British? And he was
At least it was better back in Egypt.
Yeah. It's like, keep it together, people. Like, this is a good thing. We want this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, having to convince people to like die for something is kind of a big ask.
Yeah.
Especially when like there's nothing tangible to show for it at that point,
Yeah.
And so, like if someone asked me to like overthrow the government, even as bad as I think it is, I'd be like, Probably not.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like they're taxing me just as much now, or they tax people just as much now. Like the tea tax, I think was what, like 2% on
I think
tea
it was like way less than taxes now.
Yeah.
Like if you took our tax rates today and threw that into the colonies, 300 years ago or whatever, they would have like whatever outrage they had back then, it would have been like insane
doubled,
today.
yeah.
And we've somehow just like allowed it to happen slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's a whole wild thing, but
yeah.
But I think I didn't realize just how significant he was in terms of building this country of America, and I think that I didn't realize how like famous he was after the Revolutionary War. It's like all of Europe knew who that guy was. He was like one of the most famous people in the world at that time in history, and he was definitely considered to be one of the most powerful people in the world because he had defeated the most powerful army in the world. And so people all over the world knew who he was. And even the British, a lot of people in the British, actually, when he died, a lot of their ships even put their flags down at half-mast. Because people had a ton of respect for him in Britain because they were like, wow, he just, like, we know our army is the best, and this guy just beat us. And, like, I guess we just have to respect the guy who we know bested us. Like,
weird.
Like, there's nothing you can say about that. Like he was just
fair
better.
And square, no hard feelings.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there were a lot of people who had hard feelings, but I think some people were still more chivalrous and were like, "Well, we lost the fight. Yeah. That guy's the winner."
Gee golly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe you saw like a sports match or something, like except people are just dying.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we lost the game. We'll get them next time.
Yes. Yeah. Well, win some more men, give them of age. Yeah. We'll renew the tournament.
Yeah,
right. Another 20 years here.
And we're busy fighting in Europe now. But dang. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask the question. I mean, can you think of any times in your life when you've been offered some level of power and you were like, nah, I don't want that? Like you were offered like a promotion at a job or like a bunch of money, or
considering I'm sitting in a basement doing a home stream podcast.
There was that one time I was
yes to all.
There was this one time I was offered, the entire western half of Europe, and I said nah.
Yeah, I feel like most of my life has been turning down potential gains in a lot of ways or whatever. But I think like I had somebody who like was willing to kind of invest in an idea, like basically any idea I had, and they're like, if you come up with a cool idea that you want to go for, like you should do it. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't really have any idea that needs a ton of money right now. So no, thanks. I mean, I could have like, I guess just come up with something, but I don't know. Yeah. I'm not ambitious in that way.
Grab money just for the sake of grabbing money.
Yeah, I guess. So, I don't know. That's probably the biggest thing that comes to my mind. Just for me, I struggle a lot more with like well, maybe not purpose. Like I know the things I like and I know what I want to do, but usually that doesn't take me in the direction of money a lot of times. So.
But I mean, I think that's similar to like George Washington because he basically had a purpose in his life that outweighed the desire for power. His purpose was greater than power. So when power temptation came to him, he was able to hold to his purpose so that he could not give in to that like temptation for power. You know?
Which is kind of ironic because he started out with almost like a power mind, not power, but like security or financial wealth or something.
And I think that's the interesting part is it's like what changed in him. Yeah. Like I think his younger self who was grabbing for land and trying to like move up in the ranks of the army, I think his younger self would have probably jumped on an increase of power. Yeah. But something happened to him. Maybe he found his faith in God. Maybe he saw the bigger picture of what the country was trying to do.
People die in front of his face.
Saw people dying. I don't know. Something changed in him. Yeah. Where then when he got older and then the war was over and he's like in his late 40s or whatever, and they're like, "Be king." He's like, "Nah." Yeah. And it's like, okay.
It's like the ultimate Star Wars deal right there. It's like just take everything you've ever wanted. Yeah. You got to say no. Tempt you with the dark side.
You don't know the power. It reminded me of Gladiator, where in Gladiator he like gives it to the general who just wants to be a farmer. That was kind of George Washington. He just wanted to be a farmer. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I would be curious to see. I mean, did he become? What was his like spiritual journey like during all that?
Yeah, it's said that he had like a good Christian faith, and that a lot of people in the military would like walk into his tent and find him praying on the side of his bed. So there definitely seems like he had a faith in God and would like read his Bible and pray. But I mean, outside of those accounts, like I don't know how, like how sincere he was, or
was he kind of like appealing to people on faith basis in his speeches and stuff, or anything like that, or?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I only know a few of his speeches, and he does mention God a little bit, but I don't know how much of that was like kind of the rhetoric of the time, or
like God bless you. It's like even the presidents now say that.
Presidents today are like, God bless America, because if I don't say that, people won't vote for me.
Let me go sign this bill that totally screws over a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean,
God bless you.
God bless you, but I'm going to sign this bill that closes all the churches. God bless America. It's like, oh. I don't know.
I'm gonna go invade a country for oil. God bless y'all.
It's like how in England it's always like, God bless the Queen, and although they can't say that now because she passed away. I don't know what they say anymore. God bless the Prime Minister. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, it's kind of fascinating to see those kind of characters, because there's always more built up about them than is like. It's weird because there's more built up out of them than what they actually were, but then there's also like less shown of them of who they actually were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's because like we talked about, I feel like he had sort of this like mythical demigod status.
Yeah.
And it was like he is like a mythical superhero.
Yeah, so it's like culture builds that up around him and all these ideas, but then at the same time you also lose some of the personal aspects of the person. And that's not as like apparent. So it's like you're both gaining misinformation and losing like actual information or like what really made him tick.
Yeah.
So
and it's interesting too, because I think you lose, like when you have a great person of history and you're maybe interacting with that person, or it's like people are talking about them, it's like, oh, just last week I heard George Washington like won the battle, and there was a guy who was in that battle, and he came into town last week, and did you talk to that? It's like that hype, it's like there's that energy where people are talking about a thing and you get excited about it, and everybody's sort of discussing it. And we just don't have that now, because he's been, gone for like 250 years or whatever. So it's like, there's a whole cultural aspect of like, how did people feel about him? How did people view him? What was the excitement of the time around this person? We don't know that kind of stuff anymore,
Yeah.
But it's like, if you were to be there and feel that and be in those conversations, it would be like, whoa, this guy's a big deal.
So you get people to follow you and fight for you and stuff.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's well, I mean, I almost see like, some of those people is like, you kind of have to have a calling, of some sort, where you like are called into it, and it's like, you feel conviction, especially if you're gonna then be the good leader at the end and kind of turn down power or whatever. Because it's like, if that's your ambition to like, take over the world or whatever, then it's like you're not going to turn that down, that power. But if it was more like, it sounds like more so that he was burdened by the calling, and so it's like at that point you actually get to like lay it down gratefully. I mean, think of like Frodo in the Ring or whatever. Can't go one podcast without Lord of the Rings, so there you go.
Can't.
But it's like at the end you're almost wanting to like not be king, or like give up the power, the ring, so in that sense it's like a relieving, a shedding of this burden. And it's like, for me, I wouldn't want to be president. Sounds like, or whatever, like that just sounds miserable. It's like you don't get to do what you want to do. And maybe I don't know, like people, like everyone thinks leadership is just like it. Well, that's a broad generalization, but that I think there's an idea that leadership is a very selfish position, or like a very, it's like, I'm going to exert my will over all these things, but you're really confined in a lot of ways. It's like, to get people to follow you, you have to like, kind of, I mean, there's different things you have to do to get people to follow you. You have to keep checking in with people. You have to make sure your constituents are good. You have to, check in on people. You have to meet needs of people. You have to, and then especially if you're a good leader, it's even more sacrificial.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, and even if you're a terrible tyrant, you're still like worried someone's going to assassinate you. So you have to set up all these checks and balances. So you're actually like, the higher up in like status you put yourself, the more constraints you have.
Yeah.
And you're like, whether it's, through having to play political games or, maintain your wealth or grow your wealth, it's like there's all these forces acting on you to like keep you in that system, or like if you want to stay in that system, that you have to like kind of almost appease in a sense. Yeah. And so I think leaders are some of the least free people on the planet. Yeah. Especially if you're like in a system of, I don't know, whether it be business or politics, it's like those systems have very strong streams of how you act, how you behave, what's expected. And so that like you're just kind of in that current once you're on that path.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem very appealing to me.
Yeah.
I value my freedom of just, trying to be free from all the systems. So
bring down the system. Yeah, no, it's true. And maybe that's how he felt, He's like, dude, I don't want this responsibility. I just want to go back to my farm.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true freedom, man.
Stop dealing with it.
Dude, just hanging out on a farm with a bunch of slaves. That's true freedom. Just kidding. Just kidding. So bad.
Yeah, he wrote a letter. In his will, he said that he wanted all his slaves. He had 300 slaves, and he wanted them all to be freed. And he wanted the children of the slaves to be taught how to read and write and have be taught trades, so they had skills.
That's cool. That's progressive for the time.
Yeah, for the time, that was very progressive. Yeah. So yeah, I think at the time it was like unacceptable to be a wealthy person and not have slaves. Like that seemed almost like a weird, what's wrong with you kind of thing,
Well, and probably at that time, it's like, who are you gonna find to work for you,
Yeah, like maybe there's not a lot of people to hire or whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know.
Like trying to be a farmer in California and not like hire certain people.
People who cross the border.
Yeah. I mean, you're just going to get out competed, on every metric or whatever, or you're just not going to find workers.
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to come work for you, It's not the tech bros of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Go run
the college graduates are not going to come and pay off their college loans by picking your cherries.
Yeah, unless you're charging, $100 for a quart of cherries. Right. So, yeah. It is weird how, like, once you're in a system, it's pretty hard to break out, but at least he was trying to be progressive, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you compare him to, like, Napoleon, who came around just, I don't know, like a few decades later, and basically was like, hey, now, French Revolution, I'm the new, like, emperor of France. And then he basically just tried to take over the whole world.
Yeah.
He literally went all the way down to Egypt with his armies, and he got stopped by the Russians in the winter and then got stopped by England, Yeah. And it's like, dude, that was the next sort of like world power dictator guy who came along.
Yeah.
Who's tried to repeat the American Revolution and was like a total selfish dictator guy, It's
a pretty big contrast. Yeah. Who was the general that beat him? It was at Waterloo, or the English general?
Yeah, it was at Waterloo. I can't remember what his name was. I don't know.
Something. Tip my tongue, but yeah. Oh well.
I remember if it was like Cornwallis or something. I don't remember.
Kerfuffle.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then also don't fight in Russia in the winter. That's the other.
Yeah, we've learned that.
Tip.
Yep, Napoleon, the Germans in World War II.
We're about to do it.
Yeah, Ukraine. Here we go. Like,
stop fighting right now. Well, I guess it's still summer, so you're good. Fight for a couple more months, and then call it off.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, man, George Washington.
Yeah,
I think he's an inspiring guy.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I don't know that much about him, so you hear the name all the time, you see the money all the time.
I know he's on the $1 bill, so it's the most frequently used dollar bill, right? So everybody's gonna see it. He has a whole state named after him.
Yeah.
He has the largest monument in D.C., and D.C. is literally called Washington, D.C., because he like established that place as being the capital of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff that's like named after him and his remembrance and his, everybody hears that name. You can't come to the United States and not know the name Washington. Like, it's such a huge name.
I'd be curious to see how many street Washington street names there are in the United States.
Oh yeah,
it's got to be like 20,000 or something.
Yeah, there's like so many. Yeah, so it's literally like the biggest name in our country, and I feel like, oh man, I really don't know as much of his history as I probably should. Like, I'm sure I learned about it when I was in first grade or whatever, but like, well, I don't know.
But even then, it's like you don't really have the perspective of like what goes into a person, I guess, at that point. It's like when you're a kid, you don't, since you haven't lived a lot of life, you don't understand like the decisions they're making and what they mean. It's like you might know some cursory facts of like, oh yeah, he fought this battle, then he went up here, and then he became president. But it's like when you're an adult, it's like, oh man, he was probably super stressed out, and like, okay, Valley Forge. It's like I don't know exactly what it's like to be starving, but I have more of a perspective on like how that would affect my mental thing. It's like when I go a day without eating, I'm a wreck. They went a week without eating. Like how did they even fight? Like that's crazy. So you get this really in depth appreciation for probably what people went through. And it's like, I don't know, for me, all the history books always just made it sound so easy. It's like, oh, they did this and this and this. And it's like, no, it wasn't just that, and that, it's like they were battling their inner demons the entire time and, trying to overcome odds, and everything seemed impossible and hopeless. And yet they still went for it. It's like if I even perceive 10% odds of failing something, I like am hesitant to try it. Like, I don't know. That's a 1 in 10.
1 in 10 chance it's not going to work.
Maybe if it was 1 in 20. But...
How about we just surrender to the British?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just let them take over the country. Forget this whole thing.
90% success rate. You mean I have a 10% chance to fail?
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
So, I don't know. Definitely a lesson in shooting your shots. You never know when you'll start the next USA.
Yeah, that's right. So with that, I'm going to go down to Antarctica.
Yeah.
With an army of ragtag people.
Just take it over. Fight all the penguins for it. It's our land now.
People would just be like, whatevs, bro. Like,
no, dude. Antarctica's like super.
I know it's a neutral zone. Like no one's allowed to build there. But I feel like if you legitimately try to do that, people would just be like, you're probably going to die.
No, it's super protected. And like, yeah, it's like there's huge like defense treaties and stuff.
Oh yeah,
to keep people from doing anything with it.
No, yeah, I know that. Yeah,
like they don't want you to see over the ice wall to the edge of the flat world.
That's right. That's right. No, I know that like people aren't allowed to go make that. Like nobody's allowed to claim that territory to their country. But at the same time, it's like, if you attempted to go claim that, the chance of failure is probably so high. Like, I don't know. Too.
Dude, you can't even like piss on Antarctica.
No, yeah,
you have to like take it back. No, you have to take it back out. Like they don't.
Oh,
like even like people that go there.
You're
talking
and stuff? Like legally, not scientifically.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like
I didn't
wild
know about that.
Yeah, they have like this like nothing can be like taken like left there basically policy. I don't know what exactly. I mean, I'm assuming it's to keep it pristine or something. But
what about Captain America's airplane that crashed there?
Just have to recover it and get it out.
What about the aliens?
They can do whatever they want there. But yeah, I think the moon's kind of the same way. Actually, they're trying to like do some similar like moon treaty or something to Antarctica.
We can't just like go leave trash on the moon if we want to. Can't like throw my Coke can out there.
Just stage it.
We gotta recycle.
Yeah, stage it and film it.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
All right.
What inspires you? Yeah, dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been watching these. I don't know. I'm kind of interested in like Greek mythology lately. I've been Ryan Namu. Here you go, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He was on the podcast.
Yeah, he was.
Go back and listen to Ryan's podcast.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I think he talked about board games actually.
Oh, did we?
Or
maybe we did.
Yeah, he talked about board games or video games, but I think it was board games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he turned me on to this musical.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I've never listened to any musical anything in my life.
You like My Fair Lady, Sound of Music.
I've seen stuff.
Yeah, I've seen things. I've seen things, Mama.
I'm traumatized, yes, but I've never enjoyed anything musical.
No musical satisfaction.
Yeah, I'd fast forward on VeggieTales during the songs. It's like people are like, "Isn't that the point of the show?" I'm like, "Not really. I don't know, not to me." So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of musicals. I don't know why.
All right.
But anyway, so he turned me on to this guy who sings. He does a musical of kind of like the Odyssey or different parts of the Odyssey. And I don't know, just something about it clicked for me. And the guy's got a cool voice. He does brings in people for different characters and stuff. Does like some voice changing stuff for like monsters or whatnot. But yeah, it was like, again, speaking of like stories you always hear about but don't like fully know. And this is obviously like a dumbed down version of the stories, but I've read parts of the Odyssey before, and I think I read like kind of summaries and stuff, but it was kind of cool hearing it in musical form because it felt like almost like as it should be in some sense, where it's like, because you always think of like oral tradition or like different, ways of storytelling in the past. And it's like, I don't know, to me, it always seems a lot more dynamic than just reading a book or something. And so it was like, it felt like a really cool way to engage with this old source material in a new way. And so kind of made me think of even the story in a different way of hearing it sung. I was like, oh, okay, like this kind of like epic tale. Like I think of like Lord of the Rings, it's like they're always like doing the lay of this person, or their like history is kind of related through song in a lot of ways, or the bards, kind of singing their tales. And so yeah, to me it felt like a kind of modern rendition of that. And people have done some like cool animations and stuff on the side, but yeah, I was like, oh. So I recommend people check that out. And then
what was it called exactly? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's called Epic.
Epic. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Epic.
And so, but yeah, that was cool. And then kind of I found this other YouTube channel that does animated kind of narration of a lot of like Greek mythology. And it's super cool because they just basically just go through each of the stories and kind of and do like pretty cool like graphics and animations for all these stories. And I've read a lot of them, but I've never kind of having the visuals there brings it to life for me.
Yeah.
And so is there any Greek stories that stand out to you?
I mean, I love the story of Troy. Like not only because the Brad Pitt movie was really good.
Yeah.
Except, what's his name? Orlando Bloom, who was that like wimpy little Paris guy who started the whole freaking thing.
Shoots him in the heel with the arrow.
Such a sniveling, like, I hate you. Was not a cool guy like Legolas was. He was like a little like, I'm a pathetic guy who has a crush on this girl. I'm gonna like cause everyone to die because of my little like affair. Like, wow, guy, get it together. Anyway.
Yeah, keep it in your pants.
Yeah, it's like seriously, dude. Be a little bit more mature than that. Anyway, but no. I mean, I loved that, but I even have the books on it, and I've read some of those, and I really like the story. But
yeah,
I think that with Greek mythology, it's so interesting. The whole stories there are behind the Greek gods. And I think it's always fascinating because when you read the stories, it's like, these just sound like people with like real people problems who just have like this really high powered like god status. There's all these like sibling rivalries and like broken families, and then like
cheating on people,
and the god looked down and was like, that woman by the well is really hot, I'm gonna go have a baby with her. And then his like god wife is like angry at him, and so then he's got to like punish the mortal people. And there's just like all this weird like, that sounds like human people problems. Like, these are weird god people.
They're not really transcending any like human pettiness.
Like, they're just more powerful and live in a spiritual world, but they're not like more morally upright or good in any way.
Yeah,
like, they're not really that great of gods.
Interesting.
Like,
that's a good take. I always
thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
and but I definitely love like the ancient Greece history. Some of the crazy wars, the Spartans, the Trojan War, the
Peloponnesian War.
You look at like all the Greek philosophers, you look at like the art that they were doing, the marble that they were working with, and the like statues and the architecture and the Olympic Games. And I mean, there's so many cool things that Greek culture brought about, aside from all just their food that we eat today at the Mediterranean restaurant. But no, it's like I love all of that kind of stuff. And it is fascinating to study that for sure.
Yeah. Troy is an interesting one because it's like that was such a like a pivotal time in history, that there's a lot of like cultures that kind of draw their heritage or their start from Troy even. And so you'll see like actually European like countries kind of like tracing their lineage back to Troy in some regards, which is kind of wild. And so it's like whatever shifted there in history, like people saw that as like the founding of a people group or like some sort of identity that people went to. Because there's like been these big civilizations or cities that people kind of like tie their cultural identity with, to kind of like give them some sort of like historical context, I guess, or like again help shape like identity, and so it's this interesting idea of how identity can both be like given but then also like taken, I guess. So it's like because if you identify with something, right, you're like taking on the aspects of that thing. So it's like if you start to identify yourself with like Rome, it's like you're taking on industriousness, you're taking on like kind of this expansionist mindset, and just all the different things that Rome embodies. So it's like by claiming them as your ancestor, it's like whether or not they actually were, you kind of like say, these are the principles we stand for, rule of law, justice, hard work, all these kinds of Roman ideals. And so you like look back and put that person in your history, you're kind of saying like these are the ideals that we elevate and like look for in our culture as well. And so it's almost like a type of veneration too. And so I think a lot of these countries then look back at Troy as kind of like one of their forefathers almost, or something like that. It's like whether or not they're like actually descended from them, they kind of like take that on as their mantle of basically people. And I don't know what Troy's characteristics are necessarily, but like I think a lot of people saw them as like the good guys in some sense, or like the noble people, and then the Greeks were kind of like I mean, I guess it just depends where you fall, but the Greeks always seem kind of like divided or like petty, or they're always like there's always something weird going on with the Greeks, whether it's like I don't know, brothers are fighting, or they're like, didn't Achilles have like some weird thing with like he had some beef where he wouldn't show up, and he was like, no, I'm not gonna go fight with you because like what was his reason, like someone wouldn't give him his wife or something, or like
I can't remember, but because the Greek, it was basically like a bunch of little tribes almost, and they were always fighting against each other. So they had kind of these like little minor kingdoms, and then there was the big guy, Agamemnon or something like that.
Agamemnon,
that guy.
Yeah.
Mom nom.
The gas station.
And he conquered all the kings, united all the kingdoms together, and was like, we're going to be one nation, and now I'm going to go like conquer across the Aegean Sea and conquer other nations. So you got to take out Troy. And I think Achilles was just kind of like, I don't really care to fight your wars. I'm just a good soldier, but I'm tired of like being your little pawn. Like, you're so dependent on me for your battles, but like if I'm so powerful, you should like reward me more. And there was kind of this disrepute with like the king disrespecting him and him disrespecting the king. So I think he was kind of like, I'm sick of your thing, man. I just want to go smoke weed in the wilderness. Not really, but
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe he was smoking weed.
Maybe he was at the Oracle of Delphi.
Yeah, that's
getting
right.
High.
Yeah. Maybe, I think also, I mean, there was a mythology that he was sort of this demigod person. That like his mom had like slept with some god, and then
that's why he was invincible, because she dipped him in the
river.
Or wasn't it like tar or something?
I thought that she dipped him in the river of Hades or something. For some reason she went down there with him and like dipped him in the river. I don't know.
But then like the place she was holding him by was the only part that didn't get. And then doesn't he? So then Paris gets him with the arrow at the end, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then was it a poison arrow?
I don't know if it was poisonous. I don't know. It's shot him through his Achilles, which like physiologically, it's like if you got shot in your Achilles tendon, you're not going to die from that. Like unless it hit some artery back there and maybe you bled out from that. But like,
it's like, it'll be fine. 7 days later, it's still bleeding. It's like, it'll be fine.
Like, like people get shot in the shoulders and people get like injuries all over the place and still stay alive. Like the Achilles tendon. Okay. I guess.
That's just how.
I guess that's
just how baller Paris was.
Yeah, it's like, did he just not get the right medical treatment? Did he somehow bleed out and they didn't stop it?
Got an infection.
Yeah, he got an infection. Like I don't know what happened, but it's like, okay, I guess that killed him.
There you go. Score one, Paris.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, even his wimpiness carried on by like being like the worst possible shot. Like any other time, that would be like the lamest shot.
I was aiming for his head.
Yeah, exactly. Can't even get that right. Oh wait, you killed him. Dang.
Yeah.
He's like, a hero.
Like I'm imagining that he like shot him in the foot and then in the tendon, and then he like falls over and can't keep fighting, and then some other guy comes along and chops his head off, and he's like, but Paris like, but I called dibs because I shot him first. So technically it was me. It's like, I don't know.
It's so funny.
Oh, yeah. Some of that Greek mythology, though, it's super interesting stories, pretty wacky characters. And Greece is definitely an interesting historical place. For sure.
I was just watching one on Hercules the other day. And it's just like so many wild stories, like one after another, because he has to do like the 12 feats or whatever it's called. Or 12, I think it's 12 feats. I don't know. The 12 labors is what I think it's called. But to like basically be free from his guilt for like basically, again, someone sleeps with Zeus, naughty Zeus.
Yeah.
Fools around, and then his wife gets jealous, and so she curses Hercules, the baby, and then he goes mad, kills his wife and kids.
Yeah, which is not how they portrayed it in that like Disney or DreamWorks movie or whatever. The Disney movie.
What happens there?
Where in the Disney movie, it's like Zeus's natural baby that with his god wife.
Oh, okay.
And then the demons come and steal him and like make him drink a juice or whatever that like sucks the god power out of him.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't drink it all the way, so he's like mostly human but partially god. And it was
interesting, way different. Yeah.
But the real mythology is that Zeus was sleeping around.
Yeah. Pretty much, and started this whole terrible affair. But yeah, so he has to do like basically 12 things for like his king brother or whatever, king cousin or something. And then like basically it's like you're the strongest person or like the most gifted person, but you have to like be subservient to this like lesser dude. And then but he like kind of takes it on as like his penance almost for like his sins. But yeah, like one of the trials is with like Atlas, who's like holding up the vault of the world or whatever, the pillars of earth or the vault of heaven or whatever exactly it is. But so he's like, well, he needs golden apples. And so like Atlas is like, oh, I'll get one for you. He's like, just hold the earth for me for a second. And Hercules is like, all right, sure. So he does it. And then he brings the apples back. And then Atlas is like, wait, I don't have to carry the earth anymore. Great. He's like, okay, I'm going to take off. And Hercules is like, actually, can you just hold the earth for one more second? You just need to put like a coat on because it's going to get chilly or whatever. And Atlas is like, sure. So he does it for a second. And then Hercules just picks up the apple and walks away.
I feel like both of these guys are pretty gullible. Like, Atlas is like, I can get you the golden apples, just hold this thing. Oh, wait, I don't have to hold this anymore. No, just let me put my jacket on. Like, okay, you guys don't have a lot of brains going on here. Didn't think ahead.
Yeah.
Totally trusted this guy.
Right. So, I mean, I'm sure there's like much more symbolism to it, and it's like whatever, but it is just funny, like on a surface level, just kind of, it is kind of like silly where it's like, oh, weird, and it's like you're talking about these like extraordinary things. Like, what does it mean to hold the earth, like what does that like entail? I'm sure there's some meaning to it, but it's just like on the surface, you're like, yeah, this guy's just holding up the world. No big deal.
Maybe those golden apples came from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Probably. Oh yeah,
they were causing sin across the whole world.
Something. Yeah, there was actually a. Yeah, no, there was like basically Hera was given the golden apple tree, and there was like a dragon guarding it or something. Oh. So there is like really interesting Genesis symbolism there. So yeah, like there is whatever the connection is there. There's something, but okay. Yeah, so it's just like all like really wild stuff. Like one of the trials is he has to clean out a whole stable, like an entire king's stable in one day. Oh. And so he kind of makes a bet with the king that he can do it. And the guy's like hands him a shovel, and he just like throws the shovel away, goes up to like a river that feeds the city, dams it off, and sends it through the stable. Oh wow! And just cleans everything out, and then puts the rocks back. And then wow, yeah, he's like, all right.
I used irrigation.
Yeah,
clean this thing,
and I washed all the poop into your neighboring enemy's city. So there you go.
Oh man,
I ruined all their drinking water for the next week. Cow manure or horse manure. Yeah,
it's got to be a big stable,
right? Yeah, I mean, all the king's horses and all the king's men. Right? Yeah. Couldn't put Humpty. No. But yeah, it's interesting though, because then you get tie-ins with like, other mythologies too, because it's like these these people kind of like repeat themselves in different cultures. Like we have Paul Bunyan, and it was like this super strong guy that was like a giant that was, basically almost like a Hercules equivalent. He would like, he would clear an acre of woods with like one swing of his axe, and all this kind of stuff. He like fought big monsters, and I think he did.
I think he had like a giant bull.
Yeah, a big blue bull.
He had like a big blue bull ox.
Yeah, blue ox.
Yeah.
Named Babe.
That's
always weird to me, but yeah.
Babe was a woman. I don't know. Babe was
the only ox he ever loved.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so you get these like kind of crossover, hero type characters or mythological characters in every culture. And so yeah, I'm always curious kind of what they represent or whatnot.
We're kind of talking about these like demigod characters today. We're talking about these more than life humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Well, and these ones are definitely more of the divine nature, but like, and then you also get like crossover too, where, like especially these like giant characters kind of terraform like the land in some sense. So it's like one of Hercules' journeys is he has to go to like, I forget, he has to go like to an island and steal some sheep from a giant or whatever. And so like when he's on his boat, he comes to like basically this impenetrable wall of mountains, and so he like separates the mountains by hand.
Whoa.
And then it's basically where the Mediterranean meets the Atlantic, the Strait of Gibraltar.
Oh.
And so you see have you ever seen those two
that's right,
pillars?
That's right. I forgot that the Strait of Gibraltar, it's called like the Pillars of Hercules or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
So you get like these kind of landmarks that like are tied in with these heroes. And so like even Paul Bunyan, actually there's a few places where it'll be like he swung his axe here, and like this is why this canyon is here. It's not exactly that, but there's like kind of landmarks that are be like people are like, oh, Paul Bunyan did that, which is like always fascinating to me that it's like attributed to those people.
Yeah,
like these kind of supernatural environments where things like stand out or are unique.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, is there any like, have you identified with any hero or thought like one is super cool or like a Zeus guy or a
within Greek mythology?
Just any mythology.
Within any mythology?
Except Lord of the Rings.
Dang it! I was literally gonna say. Can it be within Middle Earth mythology? I was literally gonna say that. Dang it!
No. How about one from Middle Earth and one from real life? Or history, I should say.
Interesting, kind of like mythology, superhero characters.
This is your personality test. It's like taking which house am I in Harry Potter quizzes.
Personality. Which Disney princess am I?
Yeah, exactly.
Which Greek mythology person am I?
Poseidon. Haven't people called you Poseidon before?
People have actually called me Poseidon. I don't know why.
When you come out, or Aquaman when you come out of that water.
Yeah, something about when I had longer hair and a bigger beard.
Yeah.
People were like, "You're like the old man of the sea. You're like Poseidon." I don't remember why people. Yeah.
Well, because you'd always come out of the water like just drenched and like sopping, and I don't know. You just kind of look like Jason Momoa before he was a thing.
Yeah. Except with blonde hair.
Yeah.
And like not nearly as buff.
I wasn't gonna add that part, but sure. I don't think anyone could be that buff. Very few people.
Without steroids.
Yeah.
Maybe he could do it without steroids. I don't know. I don't know if he's using steroids or not.
Shame. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of mythology creature, human I would want to be or something.
Or just one that like resonates with you, or like I've always liked Athena, or like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I do. Well, I mean, there's Marvel characters that I like, that are superhero type characters. There's fictional characters I like in the Star Wars, Lord of the Rings world that I think are really cool. In terms of like ancient mythology kind of stuff, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever felt like I related that much with different historical characters like that quite as well.
Like fictional, historical.
Like I feel like I do relate with fictional characters quite a bit, but I don't know if I've always related with like sort of ancient historical mythological kind of characters as much. I think for some reason in my mind I've always been like, yeah, they're like Santa Claus, they're cool, but like they're not real, whatever. And so I've never felt like a big connection to those types of characters.
Yeah, but you're saying you can relate to other fictional characters, so
yeah, I don't know why I fictional characters. Maybe I like put myself into the fictional character world more. Like, ooh, this is like my imagination. Like I'm trying to like connect with these characters. Whereas maybe because it's mythology, it's like
real, but not.
I'm trying to not connect. I don't know why. I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Like fake
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hercules, he was using steroids. It's not real.
Illegitimate.
Achilles, I don't know. People just made it up.
He had really good armor.
Paris was just trying to make up a cool hero because it was the one guy he shot in battle. So he tried to make up a big lie.
What about Hector?
Oh yeah, Hector. Yeah.
Hector was a cool guy.
Hector was a cool guy.
Yeah. He was like the most honorable person in that whole.
Yeah, he was pretty much like the only legit guy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I think that's probably why people like Troy, because like almost because of Hector, I think, because he was like kind of the stand-up guy that was like, I'm gonna, it's like not my war, but I'm gonna defend my city, and I'm gonna ask for peace, and like try to smooth things over. But if it really has to come down to it, I'm gonna fight my hardest. And yeah. So, but yeah, what about the Lord of the Rings one?
Lord of the Rings. I mean, okay, I'm trying to think of somebody besides Aragorn.
Man way.
I mean, I think besides, it's got to be, gosh, if I'm not going to say Aragorn, I could say Baron because he's really cool. I could also say Elendil because he was the guy who basically went back to Valinor to be like, Morgoth's too powerful, help us. And they were like, cool, man, we're going to like take the Silmaril and stick it in your forehead and like give you a cool boat and you can just fly around in the sky. Yeah. That guy is pretty cool.
Did you know that Tolkien took that story from somewhere else?
Yes, and I cannot remember where he took it from, but it was some other mythology thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember what, though. Yeah, but I know that he stole it, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Repurposed it.
He recycled it.
Yeah. Upcycled.
Yeah. Upcycled. Ooh, that's a word. Upcycle.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a cool character for sure. Yeah. I'm actually putting something like that in my story, so I'm going to steal from Tolkien.
Oh, somebody with a star in their head?
No.
Like Marvel did with that one dude who had a
vision.
Who had a stone in his head.
Dude, these tropes are just going to keep recycling for the rest of history, so you got to use them. You just have to put them in a cool context.
Is there anything in the Bible that's like, and he shall have a star on his head?
Ooh.
I mean, there's like the Star of David.
A lot of like crown analogies.
A lot of crown stuff, but like a star on his crown, star on his forehead. I don't know.
Feels like there should be, huh?
Feels like there should be. I don't know if there is though. I don't know.
I guess there's a star when Jesus is born.
Yeah. Well. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Think about that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, yeah, that's my That's what inspires
There's
me.
your thing, man. Greek mythology.
Yeah.
It's cool, dude.
Yeah, people should go check that out. I forget what the other channel is for the narration, but
Epic was the
musical
Greek mythology musical.
Yeah.
All right,
Ryan
cool.
and I are going to go see it live if it ever
Check that
happens.
out, people. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm like, no, I'm not exactly, I'm not going to classify myself a theater nerd after watching 30 minutes of YouTube, but it's kind of funny. Now I'm kind of open to more musicals now. So especially being in the Orthodox Church where everything's sung too, it's like singing is becoming
Church
a bigger.
Church is a musical.
Kind of, yeah. Like singing is becoming a much bigger part of my life. So and I've even thought about joining the choir there, but don't hold me to that.
Is it just singing or chanting too? I think of chanting as almost like.
Where do I recognize that from?
Kazadoom.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe I'll make my own musical in the next 10 years or something. But all right, people. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for watching.
Episode 33.
If you made it this far, pat yourself on the back. Yeah. And
their blinding white background.
You're welcome to have dessert. We give you permission to have dessert on our permission. Give yourself an extra cookie tonight after dinner.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you won the cookie lottery. All right, people. See you later.